Mickey Brady, what's the purpose of tonight's meeting?
We're here in Ballabod House in Newry tonight organising a public meeting against the Tory cuts, welfare cuts that are being imposed by Tory millionaires based in England who don't have any mandate here in the north. We have a number of community groups here tonight. We have groups from Mental Health Forum, we have CAB and various other interested groups who are here to learn about the devastating effects that these cuts will have if they're imposed. Now, the media has made it out to be a Sinn Féin DUP dogfight. Basically, it's not. It's going to affect all stratas of society. The churches have come out against these cuts, the unions have come out against these cuts, and people who have read the information that is available have also come out against these cuts. These cuts will have a devastating effect on a society which is already devastated in many areas by deprivation. Here in Newry we have two of the most deprived wards in the 6 counties. We're standing in one of them, and obviously it is our intention to ensure that these cuts are not imposed. We are here to defend the rights of the most vulnerable in our society, and we'll continue to do that. We are opposing these cuts for the right reasons.
Carl, how worried are you about the impact that these cuts are going to have with people who suffer through mental health?
Well, the client group that we work with day and daily are people who have severe and enduring mental health problems, and in many cases lifelong mental health problems. You know, we would be fearful, as would staff who are working on the front line, be very fearful for the outworkings of those cuts if and when they're imposed. We're dealing with the most vulnerable people in society here. We're dealing with people who in many cases are marginalised within their own communities because of the severity of their particular mental illness. And there are very, very well documented examples of how the likes of work capacity assessments are failing people. It's a very flawed system. It's a system that is generally ignorant of the presentations of mental health issues. And you know, it's quite disgraceful to think that such a flawed system that has been exposed for being redundant in many capacities is still being forced towards us, and we're still being accepted to, or still being challenged to accept a system that is fundamentally flawed and has been proven to be so. You know, and I mean, to further illustrate the difficulties and the challenges that may well be coming our way, the Royal College of Psychiatrists, a very esteemed body, have already declared that these particular cuts to welfare are going to impose huge challenges and difficulties on a very vulnerable section of our population. Our communities are going to be directly impacted. It's already well acknowledged that the very people who will suffer at the sharp end of these cuts are people who are already living very challenging lives that have austerity written all over them. So even an esteemed body like the Royal College can see where the huge difficulties and the huge impact of these cuts are going to rest and on whose shoulders are going to fall.
As a frontline worker, what are your real concerns if cuts come in, never mind where you are at the moment?
Well, I've been an appeals rep for the past 2 years, and I would say there's been a 40% increase in the number of clients and appeals that I'm dealing with. There's only one rep funded within the Newry area, and to date this year I've represented 400 appeals. This is before these proposed cuts. There's no other funding to have two of me. My concern is these cuts, particularly around ESA and DLA, and regarding the fraud and overpayments, it's going to lead to an influx of appeals. The problem I have is if there is this big influx, it's going to clog the system again, and you're going to have clients there for one reason or another that they're unlawfully deprived of money. On an ESA appeal, whilst you're under appeal, you're living on £72.40 a week. If you have borrowed money, which most people will have to, trying to survive on £72 a week, the department will still make deductions on that £72 a week, so you're actually living under the legal applicable amount. So I have quite a few clients who are maybe trying to exist on £65 a week. You know, so you're equating that to £7 or £8 a day to live on. You're not living, you're existing. And obviously, if there's a backlog of appeals in the system and you're waiting a year to 2 years, you have to manage on that money. And you know, there's no person's living it up on that. Having looked at the stats, as I'd said, you know, fraud is down and departmental error is up, but you would not see that from what's being put forward in this welfare reform bill. There's been 20 points regarding this issue, and 15 of them are designed specifically to tackle fraud, which implies that it's rife within the system, but effectively it's halved in the last decade, and departmental error has doubled. To me, if the government's serious about tackling it, they should understand how it's coming about, because we're talking about, it's a 50-50 split here, and out of 20 proposals, 15 are geared towards let's stop people from doing this, and really it's their own officials which are actually causing half of that figure.
Well, I was very encouraged by this meeting tonight, because most of the people here actually represent others within the community sector, so they're residents associations, local advice centres and stuff like that. So I thought it was very, very important, because really what we need to do here is to get the kind of information about how this welfare cuts agenda is going to impact on individual families and people who are suffering maybe from mental health issues or other forms of illness, or just simply unemployed. So these kind of meetings are very, very important. Community based, it's about local people working within local communities, because that's who needs to understand the impact it's going to have on those communities. People are becoming increasingly aware the more information they have, and therefore it is critically important that such meetings like this do go ahead, and we're very keen to support meetings like this. And we've, as you've heard from tonight, we've said the local residents groups, go back into your own community. You're working at the coalface, you're working with people, very often people who are vulnerable, maybe suffering from unemployment in disadvantaged areas, so you know the knock-on effect all of these kind of cuts are going to have on people. So information is vital. It's important people have the information, and we're encouraging people to stand up and be counted. And you heard tonight, I did urge people to go to their local clergy, to go to their union representatives if they're working as members of unions, go to their own relevant sector, be it the community family sector or other organisations that they're involved in. People here tonight working with mental health organisations, work with health trusts, for example, as you heard. So it's important that all those voices of concern about this kind of cuts agenda are heard, and in the right place that they're heard. So I was very encouraged by tonight, and I look forward to a series of meetings like this around the different towns and cities and villages.
And finally, how important is that there's a massive turnout on Saturday, 1 o'clock, Ryder Square in Belfast?
Well, I would urge anybody who has any concern about the welfare cuts agenda coming from London, coming from these millionaire Tories, I would urge them to be in Belfast at Ryder Square on Saturday afternoon. It's a show of strength. It's a show of the strength of opposition there is to cuts, and you know, the fewer people who are there, it'll be used against people who are trying to oppose these cuts. So I would simply say to people, look, try and make it there to show your clear and strong opposition to this welfare cuts programme.